This is Lady Sharona, and starting another little mini-series for you where once a week or so I'd like to review a book for you that I think you would find helpful in your studies, some of which are quite familiar to you and some that aren't. When I first began studying the craft, there was a lot less literature around, and there were a few people that we had to rely on for our information, and fortunately they were the great gurus of the revolution of witchcraft, I think. But when I give my coven a reading list, some of the books I give them are not necessarily a book written by a witch about witchcraft. For example, I insist on every coven member reading this old classic, The Golden Bough by James Fraser, now Sir James Fraser. And it was written at least 100, if not a little bit more, years ago. I think he was in the Victorian times when he wrote this. And what it was James Fraser was an anthropologist and archaeologist, and he found a lot of pagan sites in Britain and Europe, and began to put together all the images that he found. And it was really him who came up with the rediscovery of the triple goddess and the horn god and the green man. He didn't discover witchcraft, and it certainly wasn't his philosophy, but he was able to ascertain that the pagan people of Europe did indeed have a religion of some sort of structure that was actually quite similar. It varied, of course, from county to county, and even more so from country to country. But he was able to put together this picture of this European worldwide belief in the goddess of the moon and the lord of the hunt. And so, of course, even though, as I said, this book is anthropological, it's a factual book. It's a little dry in parts. It's not a story. He doesn't tell you that this was witchcraft and witchcraft is the way to go, and he didn't know exactly everything about how they practiced it. But it's still an extremely important piece of literature for anybody interested in following the magical or pagan arts, because he was the one who started connecting the dots. And it's from a lot of his research that we're able to get a better, more complete picture, because as you know, there's always been witches, but nothing was really written down by them because of Inquisition, and it was even illegal up until I think 56 to even be a witch in Britain. So everything was sort of spoken down, just like the Hawaiians had a verbal lineage, so did the Wiccans and the witches and pagans. So James Fraser was somebody who helped put the dots between their storytelling, the things they knew, their memories and their heritage, was able to connect it to real life history, or prehistory, whichever you like to say. So I can't tell you a better book to start reading than The Golden Bough, Sir James Fraser. Yeah, keep it by bedtime. It is a little dry, as I said, but it's nevertheless an extremely important work that any witch worth the salt in their altar would recommend to a newbie to pick up and study. Okay? So that's my tip for this week. And this book is probably still being published. If not, it will definitely be in your local library. I got mine in a used bookstore. You probably could too, or one of the many online used bookstores. So you'll be able to get hold of it. That's no problem. I'd try my library first of all if I were you. But make sure you give it a read, and then I'll be back next week with something a little bit more along the lines of our actual traditions.